Hello everyone! Don't you just love galaxies? Of course you do, or you wouldn't have clicked on this video. Or maybe it was just the resin part of the title that you were interested in, and you don't really care that much about galaxies. But welcome nevertheless. So today I'm going to show you how I go about making some galaxy pendants. They are super fun and easy to make, and the possibilities are endless. So first you're going to need a mold. You can use whatever mold you like, any shape or size. I do recommend silicone molds or molds specifically made for resin that will make demolding much easier. Then you're going to need something to stir your resin in, so I use these small measuring cups, and I stir with popsicle sticks. To make the little nebula swirls, I use pearl-X powder. I'm using this interference gold, and I'm using this micro pearl. For the clusters of tiny stars, I use this embossing powder. And for all the fancy razzle-dazzle, I use this Prisma Stardust glitter. Okay, so glitter may be the evil of the craft world, but once it's encased in resin, its evil powers are nullified and it can no longer be a menace. There are a few more supplies that I use in this video, but we'll get to those in just a minute. Oh, I almost forgot. We need resin, don't we? I like to use this Envirotex Light pour-on resin. It's a 2-part epoxy resin. It's a very easy resin to use, and I find it gives me the least amount of problems, along with being very low odor and non-irritating to my skin. And what I mean by 2-part is that you pour the exact amount of hardener as you do resin. So for this project, I'm pouring 10 milliliters of resin and 10 milliliters of hardener. Once you've poured out exact amounts, you'll want to pour your hardener into your resin and start stirring with your popsicle stick. You want to stir until all of the cloudiness goes away and the resin is crystal clear. Once you're to a point where it's clear, pour it back into the cup with the hardener and stir some more. Once that's crystal clear, you're ready to pour it into your molds. As you can see here, I have a few bubbles. Well, actually a lot of bubbles. I'm a bit heavy-handed when I stir. If you go slowly and gently, you can avoid a lot of bubbles, but there will still be a few. Don't worry, you can simply run a heat gun or hair dryer over the surface to pop the bubbles. The cord of my heat gun doesn't reach to where I was filming, so I had to pop the bubbles off camera. And you will see that they are gone in 3, 2, For planets, I'm using these tiny polished pieces of glass and stone that are used as mosaic fillers. I simply drop 1 or 2 in each of the molds just to make sure we have a planet in each of our little pendants. Now it's time for the pearl-X powder. There are a lot of different ways you can apply this. You can dab a brush into the powder and flick it over the resin. You can take a toothpick and get tiny amounts and swirl them in one color at a time, or do like I am and just scoop out tiny amounts and sprinkle them over the resin. Then take your popsicle stick and stir in a circular motion, making sure that you don't mix it in too thoroughly. You want to be able to see the swirls, and less is definitely more with this. Don't get too carried away. Now it's time for some razzle-dazzle. You can keep it subtle like I am and just tap it gently over the resin, or you can just drop in fistfuls, however sparkly you want it. This glitter has heavier and lighter pieces, so some will sink to the bottom of the mold, which will be your foreground, and some will stay on the surface, which will end up being the background. And now for the tiny clusters of stars. I like using this embossing powder, even though I know that's a bit odd. I've never found an opaque white glitter that has no shine. I know that is the total opposite of what glitter stands for, but still, sometimes you need to tone back the razzle-dazzle. Once you've added the glitter and the embossing powder, don't stir it. This will cause the glitter and embossing powder to stick together and clump up, and you can't spread it out nice and even, so don't stir. Once the resin is at the tacky or gummy stage, it's time for our next supply, which is alcohol ink. You want to use alcohol ink rather than India ink or acrylic ink because the alcohol ink will dry on the surface of the resin without affecting the cure. I just drop it on the surface, whatever colors you want. I chose blue, purple, and white. Once you've applied your ink, you'll want to take your popsicle stick and stir the color around gently. You don't want to dig into the resin, just spread the ink over the surface. Now after the resin has cured, which can take from 9 to 12 hours, you can remove it from the mold. It just looks so pretty. Now you have all your lovely galaxy pieces unmolded and can admire the beautiful swirling nebulas and tiny planets and stars. But they don't look quite finished yet, do they? How to fix that? I know. Get some sandpaper and a glass of water. You want a finer grit of sandpaper. I'm using 240 grit, but you can go even finer. I wouldn't go much coarser than 240 since it's possible that it can gouge the resin and it will be really hard to get those scratches out later. Dip your piece in the water and begin sanding in a circular motion. This will take off the rough edges and give you a nice flat back to dome with resin later. You will need to dip your piece in water whenever you feel it starting to dry out or when you need to rinse it. The water will keep the resin from heating up too much and melting during the sanding process. Okay, now we've got our pieces all sanded, and we've got a new batch of resin mixed up so that we can dome the back. These pieces are tricky to dome because they are rounded on the front side, so I ended up taking my mold and placing them in the spaces, trying to use a smaller space so that the piece stuck up above the actual mold. Then simply take a couple drops of resin, put it on the back of your piece, and smooth it out to the sides, trying to be careful to make sure it doesn't go over the edge. Now we've got our pieces finished. How are we going to put them on a necklace? I have my little Mastercraft Dremel type tool here. It's not a Dremel brand, but it works nicely. And a tiny drill bit. I can't remember the exact size because they don't tell you the size of the bit on the package. Weird, I know. So you get that started and you just drill right through your piece. It makes a mess, so you might want to, do this outside or in a place you don't mind getting dust everywhere. Then get yourself a large O-ring. This one wasn't quite large enough, but I made it work. If the O-ring doesn't work, you can wire wrap it or get another type of jewelry finding to attach it to your necklace. And with that, you are done. As you can see here, the possibilities are endless when it comes to size and shape of the mold. I'm on a kick making these, and hopefully I will be starting up an Etsy shop or online shop of some kind soon so that you can all get a piece of this. I hope you liked today's video. I hope it was fun and informative. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments. I am taking suggestions for what kind of videos you want to see this month, so leave a suggestion in the comments if you have one. The supplies list and links are in the description, along with links to my social media where I post every day. If you want to see videos like this every week, leave a like and subscribe. Hope you have a great day. Bye.